This week on Sports Path, we take a look at the Classic Suburban Ultimate Frisbee Championship game. Then we get ready for some White Bear Lake boys lacrosse highlights as they faced off against Lakeville North. And finally, we will take a look back at some of our TV19 interviews over the spring season. All that and more as we take you down the Sports Path.
USA Ultimate.
Ground ball, finds the hole up the middle.
Steps up, goes deep left side. Receiver open, count it. Touchdown, Titans! Takes a nice shot outside the goal box, and he will break the 0-0 tie. Fantastic shot by Kenloff Solon.
Giller makes a move, a good one. Opportunity here, the Bears score! The Bears strike first.
He's at the 40. He's down to the 30, the 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Jalen Bryan. Why not? What a beautiful run.
Maureen there, fights her off the puck. Opportunity here, another sit, and a goal! Second chance effort for the Pioneers.
Put the icing on the cake, if you will, Michael. Go down and got to the outside and said good evening and good night.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. It has been a great Sports Path season so far, but we have finally come to the last episode of the school year. Yes, after today we will be turning off the cameras, wrapping up the cables, and preparing for a whole new season of Sports Path that will start next fall. But before we turn out the lights, we have a great final episode for you today. Let's start out like we always do with this week's trivia question. Now, last week we asked an easy one. We asked how many points is a bullseye worth in a high school archery competition? Now, even though this one was pretty simple, no one commented with the correct answer. And if you know anything about high school archery, you probably know this. And even if you don't, you could probably venture a guess. Yes, the answer is 10. A bullseye is worth 10 points in an archery competition. Now, to close out the season, we want to ask you a final trivia question. The question for this week is, how many state championships did your Fab 5 schools win in the 2015-2016 season? Here is a reminder of your Fab 5 schools. They are White Bear Lake, Mahtomedi, North St. Paul, Hill Murray, and of course Tartan. Now, all you have to do is go to facebook.com/TV19 Sports and comment on the top post on our Facebook page. Now, this spring, we also started a new segment called the Fab 5 Minute. This segment crams information about all the biggest Fab 5 news and scores into 1 minute. Last episode, I didn't quite get it all in under a minute, so let's see what we can do today. We're going to start. Mahtomedi captured the Metro East baseball crown by downing South St. Paul 2-1 on the 20th. Jack Schweitz pitched a complete game for the Zephyrs, who ended the conference season with a 12-4 record, a game better than South St. Paul. Mahtomedi enters the postseason ranked as the top team in Class 3A and, of course, the top seed in Section 4. North St. Paul were conference champs on the softball side of things, going 13-1 in the Metro East and 19-4 overall. The Polars avenged an early season loss to Hastings with a win on May 2nd and got a little help to best the Raiders by a game to win the league. Now, Tartan boys lacrosse continues to roll after they defeated Mahtomedi 16-8 a few weeks ago. The Titans came out of nowhere to top the Zephyrs for the Metro East title, going 6-0 in conference and 12-1 overall. Tartan is now ranked 9th in the state, one spot ahead of Mahtomedi, who is in 10th. And in girls lacrosse, Hill Murray won the Metro East, going a perfect 8-0 in conference and 12-1 overall. The Pioneers are just outside the top 10 in state and are poised to make a big run in the East Metro playoffs. Well, there you have it. That is this week's Fab 5 Minute, or minute and a change, and the final one of the season. This spring, we have also been following a few sports that may be a little bit new if you've been following us here at TV19. Instead of focusing on the usual baseball and softball games, we've decided to shift our focus this spring to the up-and-coming sports like lacrosse, archery, and ultimate frisbee. In fact, this year was the first year that we broadcast the Ultimate Frisbee Classic Suburban Conference Championship game. And in fact, we've got the highlights to prove it. And there it is. We were definitely there. It was a beautiful night at the South Campus of White Bear Lake. Not a lot of wind, but plenty of sunshine. Perfect night for some frisbee. Hudson got the scoring started with this one, getting on the board early, 1-0. And Ultimate Frisbee in high school, you actually play to 15. So first team to 15 wins it. First team to 8 at the half, or excuse me, first team to 8. That will break. Teams will break for the half. So first one to 15 wins it. First one to 8, the teams will break for halftime. You see Hudson getting it started early, getting up 2-0, but it wouldn't take long for White Bear Lake to answer. As Adam Egemo lofts it up, Kinseth Hicks with an outstanding jumping catch to make it 2-1. Hudson now with a deep pass. This one finds Max Berger, who's going to throw it ahead to Tristan Bayer for the touchdown. Hudson jumps out to a 3-1 lead with that play. But off the pull, White Bear Lake has some nice short passes back and forth to get past the Hudson defense. Eventually, Egemo will find Chris Clark, who comes down with it to make it a 3-2 game. There you see Clark jumping up. He'll pull it in. And that makes it 3-2. Hudson still in the lead. But White Bear Lake would tie it up shortly thereafter as Adam Egemo gets a quick flip over to Kinseth Hicks, his second score of the game, and we're all tied up at 3s. Hudson would, in fact, get back into the lead, though, with a throw to Alex Collins, who goes right between some White Bear Lake defenders, and Hudson back in the lead now at 4-3. Hudson now will have intercept a poor hammer throw and quickly capitalize on the turnover to turn it into a score, making it 5-3 Hudson. That would prompt White Bear Lake to take a timeout with the score 5-3. After the timeout, Egemo sees Kinseth Hicks breaking towards the corner of the end zone, and he'll find him once again. Hicks already on the board with 3 scores. 5-4, though. Hudson still in the lead. Hudson somehow brings down that pass as a tipped frisbee gets caught. They're going to try and turn this one into points. They'll go long. And this one will be pulled in by Max Berger once again. And we have a score of 6-4. So Hudson looking like they might take it to the break with the lead. As this one, right before the half, got to take a slow-mo look at that. You see a little bit of the toe drag. Some of the turf comes up. Now, there are no refs in Ultimate Frisbee, so no one on hand to make the call. The players had to discuss it themselves. Eventually, I think they'll reach the right decision. They will give it to Hudson. Score is good. That makes it 7-4. Hudson knocking on the door of that 8-point halftime break. But not without an answer by White Bear Lake. Kinseth Hicks catches it in some traffic, and he'll dish it off to make it 7-5. And then going the other way after a turnover, Danny Powell gets it. Wasn't sure where he was on the field, but he was, in fact, in the end zone. That makes it 7-6. So White Bear Lake now looking like they might be the first one to 8. But here's the play of the game. Another long throw hauled in by Max Berger. Was not sure he was going to get to this one. We'll take a slow-mo replay look at that as the Frisbee just curls enough back to him. But Berger lays out completely, gets both hands on the Frisbee, turns over, and makes the catch. So with that play, Hudson takes the lead into the break at 8-6. But White Bear Lake would be the first team to score in the second half, as you just saw there, making it 8-7. And they'll get another quick score. That one goes to Hicks again. It's now 8-8. So White Bear Lake looking to make some noise. And they will find their first lead of the game there as Clark pulls in another one for White Bear, making it 9-8. Making it 10-8 now after 4 unanswered goals to start this half. Little misread there by Nick Nelson, but he comes back and hauls it in. Hudson would respond after those 4 unanswered scores with a score of their own to make it 10-9. But White Bear Lake now with the lead, looking like they have the championship in their sights. They'll make a couple quick passes. Clark wide open in the front of the end zone. He'll score to make it 11-9. Now going long, White Bear Lake defending this time. They don't quite do the job as it falls to Max Berger, who's got a knack for catching those long passes. He'll flick it ahead, and that'll make it 11-10. With Hudson right on their heels, White Bear Lake's going to want to get a score on their next possession. And who else but Chris Clark? He's called in a lot of them. Once again, left wide open in the front of the end zone to make it 12-10. So with the 2-goal lead, White Bear Lake inching ever closer to that 15 mark. That one got deflected, but hauled in as Jacob Johnson get his first score of the game to make it 13-10. That short pass will make it 14-10, so White Bear Lake right on the cusp of that 15-point victory. Once again, you have to get to 15 points for this game to end. Hudson gets another one there, so 14-11. White Bear Lake on the edge of a championship. They'll throw it ahead. That one is Jacob Johnson once again. That will be the 15th and final score as White Bear Lake wins this one, and they will be your 2016 Classic Suburban Conference champions. And it was definitely a party there in the stadium at White Bear Lake. Congratulations to that team on their success, and we wish you the best of luck going into the postseason. Well, coming up on Sports Path, we will take you right back to White Bear Lake South Campus for some lacrosse highlights. Your White Bear Lake Bears recently took on the Lakeville North Panthers for a great matchup. Stay tuned for those highlights. Well, TV19 sports fans, we have wrapped up all of our sports coverage for the 2015-2016 season, but we are still in need of volunteers. During the summer, TV19 broadcasts many parades, local music concerts, and a lot of other events. We're always in need of camera operators. All you have to do is contact Arlen Becker. His contact information is listed there on the screen. Every broadcast is a great way to meet new people and learn a few skills. Please sign up today. Well, hello and welcome back to the studio. Once again, I am your host, Sam Erickson, and what a great spring season it has been. Spring sports are just starting section play, and we will see how they are doing in just a minute. But just as we promised, we also have lacrosse highlights coming up. But first, let's take another look at our trivia question. Now remember, all you have to do to answer this trivia question is go to our Facebook page and comment on the post that is pinned to the top of the page. The question is, how many state championships did your Fab 5 schools win in the 2015-2016 season? This one shouldn't be too hard to look up. Remember, just comment on the post pinned to the top of our Facebook page to win. Our page can be found at facebook.com/TV19 Sports, and you don't even have to post during the live broadcast at any time. If you're the first person to post correctly, you will win the prize. All right, enough for trivia. Like we promised, let's get to some of those lacrosse highlights. Your White Bear Lake Bears recently took on the Panthers of Lakeville North, and we were at the White Bear Lake South Campus to catch all the action. And that White Bear Lake team was your 2015 Boys Lacrosse State champions. We'll see how they're doing this year. Lakeville North, a very good team coming into this one. White Bear Lake will get the scoring started with Shane Olson. He races up the field and gets it past the Lakeville North goalie to tie this one at 1. We're going to see Olson once again get the ball and score here. He's going to fire a shot top left of the goalie. What a shot that was. No way he's stopping it. Next, Lakeville North will go behind the net, and they'll pass it out to a player cutting towards the middle. And he'll get it past the goalie to tie things up at 2. Jumping ahead with less than a minute to go in the first half, the Bears get an interesting goal after the ball bounces out of the net. You saw it there. They start to celebrate, and it is in fact called a goal. Now we take a look at this one as White Bear Lake goalie tries to clear, knocked down by one of the offensive players for Lakeville North, will fall to another player. Number 4 there with a nifty behind the back shot. That kid's got a little bit of skill with the lacrosse ball. There is Luke Anderson, number 22, getting around a defenseman and absolutely sniping a shot past the White Bear Lake defense. White Bear getting a goal there. That makes it 14-7 in the fourth quarter. And jumping ahead with 5 minutes left to go in the game. Shane Olson will get another one. I believe that's going to be his 3rd on the night. That would make it 14-9. You can see he can really fling that lacrosse ball. Lakeville North would get the final goal of the game. This one coming from out of bounds behind the net, passing it out in front for a bounce shot. And that would be the final score at 15-9. Lakeville North would come away with a win, beating your 2015 state champion, White Bear Lake Bears. All right, well, now that the spring postseason is underway, let's take a look at how some of the Fab 5 schools were seeded in the tournaments. Let's first take a look at lacrosse. You saw White Bear Lake there. They got the 3 seed in Section 4, with Tartan and Mahtomedi getting seeds 1 and 2. Really looks like it's going to come down to a rematch of Tartan versus Mahtomedi for that section championship, and should be awesome. Girls lacrosse, Hill Murray, the top seed in Section 4 after going undefeated in the Metro East. And now switching over to baseball, you see Mahtomedi getting the top seed in Section 4 3A, and they're actually the top team in Class 3A. So Mahtomedi definitely looking poised to make the state tournament. And in softball, North St. Paul got the 2 seed in Section 4 4A. Actually lost their first game to Roseville, the 7 seed, but have since bounced back with 2 victories in the consolation bracket and trying to get into the state tournament that way. So there's just a little bit of a look at how some of your teams are seeded for the postseason and how they've been doing so far in the playoffs. But coming up after the break, we will wrap up the season by taking a look back at some of the interviews we did this spring season. Don't go anywhere.
Community media, from my point of view, is organic.
It's power.
Public access to me gives me an opportunity to get my word out to the larger community of the town that I can't get to on my own.
This is good programming. This is what people say, well, how come they don't ever write anything good in the news, right? This is the good news.
What we're doing is critical, it's important. We have to stay energized and motivated to do this work in our community, but understand that our real mission is to hold up our part as we encourage others to hold up their part around the planet.
Oh, hey, bud. Where are you headed?
Just gonna hang out.
With Gary and Todd?
Yeah?
I've been meaning to ask you, is there any drinking going on in this crowd?
No.
If any of your buddies ever pressure you to take a drink, just tell them you promised your dad you wouldn't. I'd do anything to keep you safe.
Okay, I will.
I hope this is working.
I promise. Love you too, Dad.
They really do hear you. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
You might feel like there's too many problems in the world, or that, you as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old can't really make a difference.
It's not always about you. It's not just one person. It's a group. It's a team.
Just that simple act is transforming someone else's life.
It's one of the best feelings in the world.
It'll just make you feel so good about yourself.
I'd do anything to convince you just to be a part of this.
TV19 sports fans, we want to remind you to follow us on social media. We often post our broadcasts on YouTube after the game and then post links on our Facebook page and Twitter. On Facebook, you can search TV19 Sports and like our page for updates. On Twitter, you can find us at TV19 Sports. And speaking of social media, we want to remind you one last time of our social media trivia question. This week we are asking, how many state championships did your Fab Five schools win in the 2015-2016 season? Be the first one to comment on the post about that question and you will win a prize. Well, welcome back to the studio and welcome again to the final segment of the final episode of Sports Path for the 2015-2016 school year. To end the show today, we wanted to show you some of the interviews we have done this spring. Now, to start out the spring season, we brought in Cody Melhorn. Cody graduated from White Bear Lake High School, where he was part of the very first White Bear Lake Ultimate Frisbee team. Since then, he has come back to White Bear Lake to help coach and the team, and has even been involved as the Classic Suburban Conference coordinator. Let's take a look back at the interview with him as we talked a little bit about the sport of Ultimate Frisbee. Ultimate Frisbee isn't quite sanctioned through the Minnesota State High School League as other sports are. Can you talk a little bit about how it is organized in the state here at the high school level?
Sure. So if we start towards the top, all of Frisbee at the competitive level is governed by USA Ultimate. Then beneath that, you have certain state organizations, Minnesota being one of them. They recognize such a kind of groundswell of support for Frisbee here in Minnesota that they kind of put the resources into that. So now we're Minnesota Ultimate. We used to be called Minnesota Youth Ultimate. Now we're one overarching deal. And then there's a high school league that's separated into one big league, but we have men's, women's competition for that. So, yeah.
And because it isn't sanctioned through the State High School League, how does that affect funding and things at the high school level here in Minnesota right now?
Sure. Funding's always a challenge. Luckily, there are low barriers to play for Ultimate, but at least in our case, the White Bear Lake School District has been super supportive in giving us field space, access to equipment and that sort of thing.
Well, as you can tell, Ultimate Frisbee is definitely a growing sport in the country and for sure growing rapidly here in the state of Minnesota. We definitely want to thank Cody again for coming in to be interviewed early in the spring and giving us a lot of good information about Ultimate Frisbee. Here for the White Bear Lake Ultimate program because they hosted their first ever tournament, the Matoska Tournament. White Bear Lake invited schools from all over the metro area to participate in the premier Ultimate Frisbee tournament in the East Metro. Now let's take a look at some of the highlights from the Matoska Classic.
The head coach of the White Bear Lake Ultimate team, Cody Melhorn. Him and I went to college together in Eau Claire and played Ultimate there. I played for 5 years, he played for 4. So him and I have been friends since then and decided that we would try and spear up a youth Ultimate tournament. Cody put a whole lot of work into this and I just get to kind of stamp my name on it and get the credit for it at the end. Yeah, so logistically we have to figure out, who's gonna help sponsor the event. Try and get food donated, get water ready, get volunteers to the team or to the fields, get athletic trainers here. We need to work with the USAU, which is the kind of governing body of Ultimate. We need to work with those guys to make sure that the event is sanctioned so we can get insured so none of our players are, if they're injured, we're not held liable and we're insured that way as well. Game day we get here, we've been here at 6:30 every day, setting up, we get the fields lined up, ready to go. As far as my job, it's making sure teams know where they're going, that teams know who they're playing against. Anybody has questions, people need more water, people need a trainer. That's kind of my day-to-day duties, I guess, here, just making sure everything runs smoothly.
What a great first year for that tournament. It was a resounding success, and White Bear Lake actually ended up in the semifinals, eventually placing 4th out of over 20 teams, which was a little bit above where they were figuring to finish in the Matoska. Well, that is enough Frisbee for right now. Let's take a look at another interview we did this spring. This one was not too long ago, just a few episodes ago. We talked to some White Bear Lake archers, Hunter Klock and Stella Kottner, about their success in the White Bear Lake archery program. Let's take a look. I guess to start off, we kind of want to just know, how does the archery competition work at the high school level? How is there scoring? I mean, obviously, do you want to get a bullseye? Is that kind of your top mark? Is there sort of scoring, bullseyes the top points you can get, and then it kind of goes down from there, or is it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's 10 points that you can get for a bullseye, and you can, kind of works how they blow 2 whistles. You go get your bow. You go stand at your designated spot, and they check to see if everything's all right. If you have too many arrows, they'll take one out. If your feet are over the line, they'll judge you on that, and then they'll blow 1 whistle, and you shoot 1 practice round, and then once you're done shooting, you have about 2 minutes to do that, and once you're done shooting, they'll blow 3 whistles, and you go retrieve, and then they'll do that for 3 more rounds for actual scoring for that, and they'll do the same thing for 15.
And when you say you shoot a round, about how many arrows is per round?
In each round, there's 5 arrows.
And that includes the practice round?
Yeah.
So you get 5 practice, and that's from are there different distances that you fire from as well?
You start at 10 meters, and then you do like a practice round, 3 scoring rounds, and then you move back to 15 meters and do the same thing.
Nice, and that's 15 is as far as it goes?
Yeah.
And is there a total number of points? Like, what's like the best score you can get per round?
Per round, you can get a 50, and for 1 round, and that's what you really want to shoot for.
Sure. So I'm guessing bullseye. Then would that be a 10-point shot?
Yes.
And so if you get 5 bullseyes, 50 points.
Yep.
And so that would be the top score for your round. Now there's a bullseye, and then there are other rings as well. Do you know what the spacing size for those other rings is? Does it stay the same, or does they get bigger as they sort of go out from that bullseye?
They stay the same, and they're about 1.5 inches to 2 inches.
Well, thanks again to Stella and Hunter for coming in to talk to us about another interesting sport that so many people may not know about. And thanks to everyone who came in studio and a lot of the interviews we got to do this year on Sports Path. Couldn't have a lot of the great content that we do without you. Well, since this is the last show of the academic year, we don't have any upcoming broadcasts to talk about sports-wise, but we want to remind you that On Location has a lot of other interesting programming here on Channel 19. This summer, TV 19 will be broadcasting many parades and concerts in the park, so stay tuned to the TV 19 schedule to see what is playing. Well, that about wraps up our final episode of Sports Path. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today, and for everyone here at TV 19 Sports, want to thank you for watching, and we will see you again in the fall. And we also don't want to forget to remind you to get involved on social media when we're down here, when we're not doing Sports Path. Always stay involved with social media to kind of know what we're doing in the community. And if you have any interest in getting involved in volunteering and stuff like that, helping us out here at TV 19 Sports, definitely do that. And we want to thank you once again, and we will see everybody for Sports Path in the fall.
Dolan has it. Takes a dice shot outside the goal box, and he will break the 0-0 tie.
What a shot. And my bench likes that one. And it gets knocked down. Good job by Lakeville North sticking with the play.
Onto the stick of Cates. He's got Petronic on him. Cates with a goal!